been given tragic news, their natural reaction is to get angry at God. And that doesn't sound like... When I came up to you out in the foyer out there just a few minutes ago. And I said, "How you doing, Keith?" And "How you doing, Keith," is not "how you doing" as in you, as I say that to somebody else. As I say that to somebody else, that's just "how you doing." But you know that I'm asking a deeper question than that. And your comment was, "I'm doing better than a box of rocks." Which tells me that you may not be doing that well. And more often than not, I know that you're not doing that well. And I can't tell you that I've ever seen you with a bad attitude during this process, with a bad outcome on the horizon. I can't say that I've ever seen you show that bad attitude. So do you ever get angry at God? And if you do, how does that work? And if you don't, how does that work?
Well, I'll have to tell you a short story. 15 years ago, my best friend that I grew up with as a kid got bone cancer. And I spent 2.5 years of my wife's and my life spending every weekend with him because they lived 2 hours away from us. So we got together every weekend to spend our lives with him. And he was the worst dyer that I have ever run across, literally, if you can appreciate that. But, I mean, he hated God. I mean, and he told us every time we were together, you know, "Why did God do this to me?" You know, and no matter how much we talked and prayed together, he went to his death saying that exact same words. And that was one of the helpfulest things that I have had an opportunity, you know, and then later, you know, whatever, many years later, 8, whatever, I was diagnosed with it myself. So it really gave me a different outlook on life, because you're not going to change the end results anyway. No matter what you do, you're still going to die. And you can do it whichever way you choose. You can do it gracefully, or you can just do it and be mad at God, and I guarantee it's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to do more harm, because you have no chance of getting any type of healing, because God's not going to help you along this path. You know, if you're not willing to listen to him, you're not ever going to get the healing that you really and truly need. And believe me, without God, you don't get the healing. You know, a lot of people say, "Well, I did this by myself." No, you didn't. You just don't realize it, but God was there helping you. And that is one of the reasons that, you know, other than I just love God so much that, you know, and I can't think of a thing in my life that if somebody asked me to help them do something, I can't think of anything that I would say no to, you know, unless maybe it was jumping off in a cliff or something. But other than that, I can't think of a thing.
Then you said that if you ask God that he'll help you. How has God helped you?
Oh, God has helped me. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was in Rochester, Minnesota, and I was only there because a friend of mine was dying from cancer. And believe today he's alive. And matter of fact, I just went to his wife's funeral 2 weeks ago. And anyway, this is probably the 4th, 5th day after I was diagnosed. I mean, I was so sick that, I mean, I couldn't. My kids had flown in to be with me, and my wife and my brothers and them were all there. And I was so sick, I could not stand to be around them. So I went to bed, and during the night, I'll give you this piece here for a moment. During the night, I was so sick, and I can't tell you when it was because them things aren't important to me. But I'm going to draw you a picture with my hands, but God came to my body, and just like this. And when them hands got to the ends, that pain was gone from my body. I never had an ounce of pain, and I got up the next morning and went on to the hospital again to get some more treatments and tests and what have you. And to this day, that particular pain has never come back. So, I mean, God has been totally blessed. And another incident that happened, I had 4 treatments of chemotherapy at St. Mary's. And after the 4th treatment, God just said to me, don't go there again. And so I drove home and sat down at my desk, and it looks right out the front of our house, and it's just an awesome view. And I'm sitting there, and this is the very first time ever since the day I was told I had cancer. I just sat there and I started crying. And I told God, I need your help. I need your help. I just don't know what to do here. I know I made a decision that I'm not going to do this again. But it was because in my mind, God was telling me that's what I should do. And sure enough, man, here's this tap on my shoulder. And I turn around and look, and then I realize that my wife's not home, so obviously I'm the only one in the house. And God just spoke to me. He said, you made the right decision. And I continued crying and said, hey, I know maybe I made the right decision, but I have no idea what to do. Without your guidance, I'm lost. So I need your help. And it's amazing that the oncologist that I go to right now is the smartest oncologist in this area. And I was led to this doctor through another doctor at St. Mary's when I was just there by myself in the emergency room. So it's just totally awesome how God has worked in my life.
So something I'm hearing you say that's a theme throughout this whole thing. And you haven't came right out and said it, so again, I'm putting words in your mouth. But one of the things I keep hearing you say is don't let your pain keep you from helping other people.
It will do you no good to sit home and feel sorry for yourself. And besides that, unless you're not like me, but the satisfaction that I get out of helping so many people is just, I'm blessed with something. I was a heavy-duty truck mechanic, and since I retired from that job, I have helped people build their homes, and done repairs that, mechanics, they don't usually know anything. So I've been blessed literally with all of these talents. And when I grew up, my father used to tell us all the time, you're never going to amount to anything. And believe me, when I'm driving down the road, I'm always thanking God for the talents that I have received in my life. And one of the talents is that don't feel sorry for yourself, because you're not going to gain a thing out of it. All you're going to do is you're going to turn to some substance that you don't want in your body, and regardless of what it is, and all it's going to do is make it worse for you. So the best way to do it is just say, hey, I can do it. And believe me, no matter what it is that you say you can do, unless you're going to be saying something really dumb, but you will be able to accomplish what you say you're going to do. Believe me.
We're talking about your sister-in-law. I'm going to let you share that story. But the question that brought to my mind was that would you do anything differently? If given the opportunity, if you could go back and this thing didn't happen, or if you could go back and do things differently, from your perspective of where you sit right now, would you do anything differently? And if you would, what would you do differently? Or if you wouldn't do anything differently, why?
Well, I know what I would do differently. The moment that I could think for myself, I would start serving the Lord back that early in life, simply because it makes you a better person as you're growing. Because serving Him, you look at things a lot different than if you're out there, I can do this. I don't need anybody. It's not true. Believe me, I can tell you that firsthand. It's not true. You cannot do it. So if I could have it, I've thought about that question many times in my life, what I would do. But in my sister-in-law, she used to, every time she'd see me, she'd say to me, today, Keith, no, she can actually tell you. Every time I answered her, she can tell you exactly what my answer was.
And she was asking you if you were going to give your life to Christ.
Right.
That was the question.
Correct. And she can tell you every answer. And so when the day that I gave my life to Christ, which I seriously can't even tell you the exact day, but I never ever went and shared it with them. and we didn't, our paths didn't cross a whole lot because we lived a long ways away. But, we'd have family reunions now and then, so we would see each other periodically. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was in Minnesota and I needed to get home, and I had driven my pickup to Minnesota, so it didn't have a reclining seating back in them days, so I had to get a ride back to Grand Junction, and my brother, that's the retired pastor, he said, "I'll do it for you." And he got the shock of his lifetime as he was driving me back to Grand Junction, because he said, "I can't believe it. You gave your life to Christ?" I said, "Yeah, well," he said, "How come you haven't told me?" I said, "Well, it wasn't one of those things that I share it with everybody else in the world, but I never shared it with you because I figured I wanted you to see how long. I wanted you to think that I still didn't do it, and you would just say, 'That guy's never going to do it, never going to do it,' So I wanted you to be the last one to know." So he said, "Thanks a million, thanks a million."
So one of the questions that I guess I wanted to infer in this, and I want you to feel the freedom to answer it or not answer it. If you're given the opportunity not to have the diagnosis of cancer in your life, would you go back and take that opportunity?
No, I would not, because I think literally that it's made me a better person. Because I don't care who you are in life, you get mad at people. And one of the things that it has helped me in my life is because you look back, every moment could be your last moment. And everyone should think that same thing, but this is what it did for me, is when I was told that C word that you just thinking, everyone in this world thinks that same thing. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And if you don't have God in your life, it is worse than, oh my goodness. So I would not want to have, I guess I can't think of anything that I would want to change, except that I would like to have more time to share. That's my biggest fear about dying, and it's my only one, and that I would leave some one person that I didn't help before I died, and that's my only fear about dying.
I'm sorry, you just stunned me. Because I think that although this is not a 20-something service, we have a lot of 20-somethings that come to this service. And I think that in that early stage of life, because I can remember thinking this, man, why do I have pain? I can now look back, although I'm not that old, thank you very much, I can now look back and I can thank God for the pain in my life, because actually the pain in my life probably caused me to seek God more than the good times in my life. And even Solomon says that. Solomon says that pain is better than good times, because pain causes you to gain perspective on life, and it causes you to seek God. So let me just, I'm going to ask you to dial in on our 20-somethings in the service. Even though the service is for everybody. This is just the midweek service. But because we have so many 20-somethings that come to this service, and because you have an opportunity to pass something on to guys at this moment that they may never hear, they may never get. There's a lot of people that, because of fragmented families nowadays, they don't get that one true voice, that grandfatherly voice, that elder that speaks in their life that says, do this, go this way, which is a sad state of affairs upon our society. But if you could take a moment and you could pass on something, what would that be?
We got 3 hours. I guess I'd have to look at this a lot of different ways. I was a very fortunate father because I was instrumental in raising 16 kids. And almost all 16 of those kids say, "Hi, Dad," if I get the opportunity to see them. You know, and that's what a lot of people in this life don't ever get that opportunity. But the one of the things that's really cool about that is that, you know, there are so many fathers, and my father was one of those, and I have 6 brothers, and most of them, as they were growing and went into raising kids, never learned a thing from their father. And the one thing I learned from my father was don't do what he did. And so I take that with me. And as you guys, as at your age right now, is the time right now to start forming your lives, because it is really an important time in your life, you know, because most of you young people, you look at your mothers and fathers and say, oh man, you're just a pain. But I know a lot of people that don't look at them that way, and they just look at them and say, hey, thanks mom, thanks dad for being there. And the thing, you know, because you never know, tomorrow might be your last day, or tonight might be your last moment on this earth. And every moment you pass up is one moment you can never get back. And in my life,